Welcome to Elevate and Thrive, Breaking Barriers for an Empowered Life. I'm your host, Jen Smith, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. In this podcast, we are going to dive deep into the transformative stories of individuals who have faced adversity head on, emerged stronger, wiser, and more empowered. I'm here to share those stories with you, to remind you that no matter how dark the night may seem, there is always light at the end of the tunnel, and there is a sunrise waiting to greet you. To inspire you to break through your own barriers, rewrite your own story, and to step into the light of your true potential. So what can you expect from Elevate and Thrive? Each week, I am going to bring you stories of triumph, resilience, and empowerment. We're going to explore the depths of the human spirit, spirituality, uncovering the courage and the strength that lies in each and every one of us. But more than that, we're going to provide you with practical tools, actionable insights, and a community of like-minded individuals who are also on this journey alongside you. So whether you're facing your own challenges or simply seeking inspiration to elevate your life, know that you have come to the right place. Together, we are going to break barriers, defy expectations, and soar to new heights. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I cannot wait to see where it takes us. Remember, you are worthy, you are enough, and your journey to an empowered life starts now. So today we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Stacey Turner, and she has a powerful story to tell. Stacey was a single mom of 4 kids. She came through a lot of adversity. She has some really great advice and a powerful story to tell. So Stacey, thank you so much for being with us today on this podcast. I would love to hear a little bit about your story, your backstory, and can you take us back to the beginning of your journey of what brought you to where you are now?
Well, there's a few limiting beliefs that I acquired from childhood. And my dad very much supported me. He encouraged me. I could do anything. I could be anything. My mom, on the other hand, she would put this belief in my head, like, you'll do anything it takes to get what you want as a teenager. I would. If I wanted a car, I'd go get it. I'd work my hiney off to go get it. And somehow, somewhere, that settled in my brain. I was being selfish. Fast forward to 2020 when COVID hit. Maybe a little bit, maybe in 2019, I really started. I've always tried to keep a positive mindset. I went through 8 years of what they called situational depression. And so that was about 2019 was about when it started to get better. And then I started thinking about why it was hard for me to take the leap and push my business further and hire people, because that's how you make money. I own a cleaning business. And so that's how you make money. You make more money if you have more people working. But I realized that I had this probably because of my dad's illness and stuff. And I was so grateful for my children and my health and everybody still being alive, and that I thought it was a trade-off. Why would I ask for more? Why? That's selfish, right? If you ask for more and you want more, you have everything. And I did. I had everything except for my mindset to live abundant.
Can you tell me a little bit about, you said situational depression. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and what that looked like for you? Because I feel like a lot of people listening to this podcast might struggle with that as well.
So I went to the doctor. My husband and I had split up. My second husband and I had split up. I live in Idaho. He went back to California. It's kind of the weight of the world on my shoulders. I never wanted to end things, but it was like this big cloud. And it was like dragging heavy weights all the time. I didn't stop doing the things. I had my kids. I didn't have a choice. I had to take care of my kids. Both the dads were the oldest 2 dads. He didn't take care of them. The 2 youngest, it was hit and miss. So it was the weight of the world on my shoulders. And I had to make sure that everything was taken care of. And if I had the choice, I would just sit. Even though I had opportunity to do things, I didn't want to. I only did what I had to. I very much appreciated life. I didn't ever want people to think that I didn't. And it's crazy because in my office at the time, I worked at a newspaper. They used to talk about how I was always smiling, and I still do, but it was fake. And nobody knew. Nobody knew. Even my kids, when I talk about it, they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it was, and it was bad. But thank goodness it's not that way anymore. I actually had some coffee that help with your neurotransmitter, your dopamine and all of that. And I know that sounds silly, but it really brought me out of that. And I was very grateful for that too.
I can really relate to what you're saying actually on a lot of levels because I have a similar story. I say this all the time now, but I used to do the same thing. I used to walk around with a smile on my face. People would say that I would bring the light to the room.
Yeah.
I was always the one that was walking around smiling, but the truth of it was on the inside, I was so sad and I was so numb and I wasn't really showing anybody what was going on the inside. I think a lot of times, especially when we are parents, we try to hide from our kids the heavy stuff that's going on to try to protect them. I grew up really having a lot of struggle, and so I tried to do that differently for my kids. When you walk around with a smile on your face all the time and you're really struggling on the inside, nobody really knows. It's like you're the one that's carrying the weight on your shoulders and helping everybody else and bringing them up. But in reality, you're needing some help too, and nobody knows. Is that something
Yes.
that you experienced as
Yes, yes, I completely understand that, and I was at the time too, I was dealing with a lot of pain, nerve pain and stuff like that. I was just in a lot of pain, and that doesn't help things, at all. Inflammation in your body, and that's something that I'm pretty passionate about too, is I went keto about 8.5 years ago, and let me tell you, that changed my life completely and took out a lot of, not all the inflammation, but a lot of it. The nerve pain, it's not for everybody, but it really has helped me. And that helps get your mindset too better, because dragging that around along with times that my kids would hug me and I would be like, be careful, because it hurt for them to touch me. And I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that. But it's really hard on your mindset because all you want to do is hug on your kids, and it literally hurt.
well, I haven't experienced the pain like that, but I have definitely experienced a lot of health problems and I have struggled with that quite a bit throughout my life. I can relate on that level. When you're not in a healthy state, it really takes its toll. For me, I had businesses and I struggled with not having clear thoughts. I had lacking energy. So there's a lot of things going on there that led me down this journey. So health was a big part of my journey as well. But yeah, when you're not feeling good and you just your body isn't doing what you want it to do, it can
Mhm.
be really, really hard. And it definitely affects the relationships and the people around you. At what point did you decide that you were going to take a lot of these hardships and a lot of this limiting beliefs that you had identified and really shift it and turn it into a different direction?
So in July 2020, my youngest son, they had all just graduated, and which we all know was really hard on these kids. And his best friend committed suicide. And I had to watch my son, not only my own broken heart, right? Because these kids were always at my house, 2 days prior, I had sat there and had a long conversation with Jordan. And I had to watch my son, who, I mean, he's driven college scholarships, like just driven football. He knew what he wanted out of life. He knew how it was supposed to go, and there was no stopping him. And I had to watch him crumble, and I had to let go. I had to let him come to me when he wanted comfort or he wanted to talk, and then I had to let him be and process everything. He took a semester off. He didn't go to college his first semester. He just couldn't. And he had to learn to live in the moment of now. I had to learn to let things go. I couldn't fix it. And that is the worst feeling in the world, is not being able to fix things for your kids. And so I had to sit, watch the process, do what I could. And it was then that, and watching him become a better man from it, take it as a learning tool instead of an excuse to be mad and sad and all of those things. And he will even tell you today that it has made him a better man in the long run. He's very black and white, so it's given him a lot more empathy for people. He got back on track, and he's got one more year of college and everything. But it was then that I had to learn about now and being present in the now and not knowing things would be okay and letting them work out that way.
That can be a really big struggle for a lot of people. And I, especially as a parent, to see your kids struggle and to not be able to do anything and to fix it. Just want our kids to be happy. We want the people around us that we love and care about to be happy. How were you able to, in such a heavy situation like that, let go of wanting to fix it? And I know that there's a certain sense probably of like powerlessness that comes along with that. How were you in that time period able to make peace with what is? Because I feel like that's really challenging for a lot of people.
Well, this is another thing that it brought me to the conclusion. We were talking before about I thought I had to trade, right? Trade things. And this is when I realized that everybody's on their own journey. No matter what I do or what I say or how I live my life, it is not going to make a difference on what my son's journey is or what Jordan's journey was. So that is when I had this epiphany that that's the way life really worked, that life was not out to get me. Things, tragedies and stuff happen around me. They don't happen to me. And so through it, I learned that I just had to let these things happen because that's the way they were supposed to be. And I don't know exactly why or how. Many hours of crying and thinking and the whys, right? Because we all want to know why. I mean, that was the worst thing I've ever been through. And I lost my dad at 19 and 7 months pregnant. But for somebody to take their own life and so young, and I mean, he was just the epitome of the all-American boy. Great smile, great kid, athletic, the good friend group, the whole, like our whole community up here is a very good community. Things aren't as they appear, and you have to realize that it's not about you. I was really afraid I was going to fall back into depression, which I did not. And I just made a choice, I guess.
Well, to me, it sounds like you made an empowering choice. There's so many things that happen out of our control. And so there is this level of letting go that is part of, I think, just being human, right? It's like we can't
Yeah.
control the things that happen around us, no matter how much we want to. And it sounds to me like in that moment, you made a choice, like you thought about it and you really took time to evaluate the situation and then chose to accept that there are certain things that are out of your control. And that sounds like something that you did that created some peace for yourself in that really hard time.
My youngest son has been such a teacher for me in parenting. I mean, he's a great kid, but he's had social anxiety, and bringing him up was something else. Let me tell you, always a great kid. But he taught me, like, he couldn't talk about it sometimes, and he couldn't. And so he taught me that I had to be patient, and I just had to let things play out, that they were the way they were going to play out. I'm grateful for the lessons that all of it has taught me. A lot of people can't say those things, but I am grateful, and I'm grateful it's made my son a better man. Of course, we would always bring Jordan back, always, every day of the week, but that's not possible. I mean, I guess the question is in tragedy is, what can we learn?
And I think that's such a powerful way to look at it, an empowering way of walking through a really hard situation as opposed to letting it take you down. I want to loop back to what we talked about a little bit earlier in this conversation, where both of us could relate to walking around with that smile on our face and
Mhm.
people not really knowing how depressed we were or how much we might have been struggling on the inside because we didn't show people. And it sounds to me like maybe Jordan was struggling with a similar battle, that internal struggle. And I think that there are so many people out there, and mental health is thankfully really starting to become talked about. But I think for a really long time it wasn't. And I also think that people still to this day struggle to talk about what's going on and opening up. If you could offer any advice to the people listening to this podcast that might be having some internal struggles and walking around with that smile on their face and presenting to the world that everything is okay when really it's not, what would you say to people that might be helpful to them?
It's okay. It's okay to talk about it. Find somebody you can trust and talk about it. Find somebody to hug. It's scientifically proven that it helps. And find somebody you can talk to. And find somebody that, when you're going through your struggles, that says, okay, I hear you. Now, what are we going to do to change it? What are we going to do to help you? And if you don't have that, I know there's places you can reach out, churches to talk to. My daughter right now, my youngest daughter is going through some counseling at the church, and we're not overly religious people, but that's a place to talk and it's neutral. And so I would reach out because there are people who care. And I didn't want to reach out because I didn't want to be weak.
Mm.
And that's super sad, but it's the truth.
And I can relate to that as well. This misunderstanding or the belief that most people have that if you show that you're struggling, that means that you're weak.
Mhm.
And in reality, I think that when you are willing to open up and talk about what's going on for you, that is the ultimate strength. That it takes more strength to show somebody that you're struggling or that you're not okay right now than to hold it all in and just numb out. That's something that has been a journey for me throughout, and especially throughout this last 3 or 4 years. It's really, really become so important that when I am feeling emotional about something or when I'm needing help with something, I don't hold it in.
I
And I
don't either
feel,
anymore. And
yeah.
I was taught that. When my dad was sick for like 10 years. And so I was taught that. And it's funny because also when you're dealing with other people, like going through things like that, people would ask how my dad was doing, but they'd never ask how we were doing, right? And few people would, but most people wouldn't. And then you put on this show, oh, we're great. Everything's fine. And it wasn't. So a lot of us are taught to just hold it in because nobody wants to hear it, right? That's what we think in our mind. Nobody wants to hear it. And it makes us weak. And it's super important to let people know if you're not okay. And I think it makes us as parents. I mean, I believe I was a great mother. My kids will all thought I was a great mom, but I think I could have been a better mom had I not had all the emotions and all the things pent up inside that I wasn't okay.
I agree. I feel like as moms, as parents, we're doing the best that we can. And I feel like I really tried to give my kids a good life, but that's something that I do look back on. And I wish that I had done it differently. I don't think that it's necessarily beneficial to hold on to regrets, but looking back on things with perspective and understanding, that's something that I really wish that I had known a bit sooner. Challenging that belief is something that has changed my life tremendously, and it sounds like it's changed yours as well.
My life has changed, and I don't, like you said, have regrets, but I wish I would have come to certain conclusions because now I in 2019 I think I made $38,000, 35,000. And this last year I well over six figures in that amount of time, just from a mindset shift, just from the fact that I don't have to trade. There's not a trade. I can want the things and it's okay because it's not going to jeopardize my family or what their journey is, because their journey is their journey. Because I want things doesn't mean that I'm selfish. We could have lived so much more comfortable, because literally I would not know how I was going to pay the bills. I would rob Peter to pay Paul. It was a struggle. I couldn't count on the kids as dads. And so I just did it. I didn't want to be weak. I didn't get welfare. I didn't get food stamps. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. I probably should have. It would have taken some of the weight off of my shoulders, but I was stubborn. And I'm just super grateful that my mindset has shifted and that now I can do all the things with my grandkids I couldn't do with my kids.
Oh my gosh. Again, I can relate. I have spent much of my life just powering through and trying to build this life. And again, this is over the last few years that I've had these realizations, and it's been a journey that when you start to do this personal development and really take a look at your part in things, it shows you these beliefs that you've held on to for so long that have not been helping you. And a lot of those things come from our childhood, from growing up, and these beliefs from, these experiences that we have, but it doesn't necessarily always equal truth. So I would love to hear, because you talked about how shifting your mindset and your belief system made such a huge impact on your financial status. Can you talk a little bit about that and what happened, I guess, that you realized you had those limiting beliefs? Because I think a lot of us don't even realize we have that and that it's naturally blocking us. We just kind of go through the motions of life doing what we think we're supposed to be doing. So what was that moment where you had that realization that, whoa, I've got maybe some things here that are not beneficial to me?
So I've known that I carried that around with my mom, do whatever it takes to get what you want, for years. I've known that for years and years and years, but didn't really know how to let that go subconsciously. And I know this sounds kind of silly, but I do things like right when I'm going to sleep, I will say things like, "You're safe." And I don't know why I need to feel safe, but it's something that I need to feel. I need to feel safe. And "You're blessed. You're highly favored." Just say things like that in my mind as I'm going to sleep. Or if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll put myself back to sleep saying those things, reprogramming my subconscious mind. I was tired of being broke, and I was tired of these things. And I did have one of my accounts, one of my big accounts. I won't go into detail, but basically they pushed me to find different accounts. They had done some things and they pushed me. And then as I started watching that grow, and at this time I was going through the whole thing with my son, it just all came together. And you watch your income double and then you watch your income triple. Like you're like, wow, there's really something to this. There's really something to letting those go. And another thing I had to come to realization that most people don't understand, and I have these conversations all the time, there's enough for everyone. You have been programmed to think that there is not. You cannot get sick enough to help somebody that's sick. And you cannot get poor enough to help somebody that's poor. If you don't have the money to give, you can't give, right? If you don't have the health to help somebody else get healthy, you have nothing to give. And so we have been programmed by society to think that there's not enough. There's never enough. There's never enough. There's always enough. It's right there. It's already yours. And when you start letting go of those limiting beliefs, you will realize, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but money comes out of nowhere. And I mean, it's just crazy to me. It's and accounts come in. Like I fired that one account I was talking about. I fired him last year completely. And I fired a whole nother huge account last year. And it's already been replenished because I knew it would. And I had faith in that. And it's already replenished.
That's so powerful because, well, I want to touch on a couple of things that you said. So first of all, it sounds like you had a moment. You had a moment where you were just tired of the way that things were. and you were over it. And so you decided to do something differently and to think differently. That's what I heard in that first
Yes.
part of that story. And then the second part of that was really being aware and what your thoughts are. So it sounds like you identified, or you were aware that you had a certain set of beliefs for a long time, but at a certain point you decided to start challenging those and believe something differently. And it sounds to me like that was kind of that pivotal moment that things started to shift for you. Would you agree with that?
Yes, yes. And I'm still growing and finding out things, that limiting beliefs that I have, and still growing. Had one last week, I did this hypnosis. I found some limiting things and some things that I needed as a small child that I never realized I needed. And I always thought it was like, whatever. That was a lie. I told myself, my subconscious mind was like, no. I mean, I think we're always growing and learning and can only be better. And the better we get, the more we can help other people, I think.
I agree. And I also believe the more that we come back to a place of love for ourselves,
Mhm.
the
Oh
more
my
we
God.
can give that
Yes.
to others. And I think that that is such a hard thing for a lot of people. And what I would want to say to people that are listening, there's a lot of talk about self-love, but what does that actually mean? What does that actually look like? To me, and I think that looks differently for everybody,
Mhm.
but to me, self love, part of it is exactly what we're talking about right now. Being willing to go back and investigate these belief systems that we have held for so much of our life, and how it's affecting us and how it's affecting the other people around us, and starting to really look internally to
Mhm.
what is our part in things. And like you just said, is like, I think that this is a journey. So we always have more learning to do. But the more that you turn inward and say, what do I need right now? What do I
And
need to
now,
change?
that's like now, like
Yeah.
right now. And
Yeah.
it's not yesterday what happened, and it's not tomorrow what's going to happen. It's right now. And if we can learn that what we need for ourselves is internal, we have it right now.
Yeah.
Like in this moment, we have it all, right? We're alive, we're breathing, we have it all right in this moment. And what happens tomorrow, we have no control over. And what happened last week, we have no control over. I always try to teach my kids, if it's not going to matter next week, next year, the year after, 10 years, then we really probably shouldn't spend much time on it, should we?
And I think a big challenge for a lot of people, a lot of my clients deal with anxiety. A lot of people that I work with deal with depression. And anxiety is worrying about something that's happening in the future or could happen. It's all the possibilities that could
Mm-hmm.
happen. And depression is really holding on to the stories of the past. It's holding on to these emotions and these things that have happened to us, and not processing it and really honoring it and allowing it to be what it is. And so, talking about being in the moment, I think that that is the most loving thing that we can do for ourselves. So, if somebody might be listening to this and they're just not sure, okay, well, what do I do? How do I start to love myself? How do I start challenging these beliefs? Ask yourself in this moment right now, what do I need right now to feel safe? What do I need right now to feel loved? And you talked about, before you go to sleep at night, you remind yourself that you're safe. Or if you wake up, in the middle of the night, you have that conversation with yourself. I think a lot of it is these internal conversations that we
Yes.
are choosing to have with ourselves. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I had a psychology teacher. I went to school for drug and alcohol counseling and psychology. And I had a psychology teacher tell me one time, and I thought it was really harsh at the time, but it's the truth. It is not the event that happened to you that controls your life. It's the story that you continue to tell. And I was like, oh, that's kind of rough. But it's true. It is very true. We can tell the story of the victor, or we can move forward and help other people, right? If we overcome things, or we cannot, and we can let it control our life negatively. I think that we all have those choices. We all have those choices. And whatever happened to me in the past is not happening right now. Right now, I'm safe. Right now, I have a roof over my head. Right now, everybody's healthy. So if you're grateful and your gratitude is in the moment of what is right now, what is good, even if there's bad going on, there's still good somewhere in the day. And I tell my kids every day is a good day. It's just some are better than others. Right?
I totally agree. I think that's such a powerful thing to do for yourself, is bring yourself back into that moment, reconnect with what is right now. Because you're right. We go through hard things in life. Life can be very, very difficult. A lot of people have gone through very traumatic events, but what can you take from the things that have happened? And I truly believe that we are the creators of our own story. That goes back to our thoughts and the narrative and that internal conversation that we're having with ourselves. Just like you said, is like at any given moment, you can choose to tell yourself a different story. So the base circumstances might be the same. You might have a hard situation that you're navigating, but what are you going to choose to tell yourself about that situation? And is it an empowering story, or is it a story of being a victim? And there's energy attached to both of those. One of them, when you feel empowered, or like you're learning something, or that maybe this has a purpose that you don't quite understand right now in the moment, but could be helpful down the road, that's a really empowering way to look at it. And that energy feels so much better than the
And you're
opposite,
going to keep
right?
drawing that. You're going to draw that energy. And if we can I love that I'm an energy girl all the way. And if we can stay at that vibration, right? Our internal vibration to the now and the happy. And like I said, not to say bad things don't happen in life, because they do, but it's how we deal with it and what vibration we want to stay in. Also, I don't want people to think that they shouldn't have emotions, because they should. I mean, if you got to cry it out, but don't live there. Don't set up camp there. Move through it. I mean, we all have emotions. We all have to move through them, and it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but don't camp out there. Have your emotions, and then decide where you're going to go with that. Decide what's good in the moment. Decide what's good even in what has happened, and move forward with that. And I like to walk through my day and look at the birds or the squirrels or what my kids are doing, or my grandbabies, and just in that moment, just a split moment, feel gratitude for that, and feel gratitude for the sunshine, and feel gratitude for the wildlife, and feel gratitude for the cutest puppy I have in the whole wide world, and the cutest grandbabies. And that's another trick that I found that really helps switch your mindset, is to stop periodically through the day, but literally set a timer if you have to, and look around you and see what to be grateful for. Is the sun shining? I have a pretty Camaro out in the garage. When my grandbaby's healthy, all my babies, the more grateful you are, the more you're going to see those things coming into your life to be more grateful for.
Absolutely. And I am a big one on energy as well. And so when you talk about vibration, everything is energy. Our bodies are energy, everything around us is energy, and our feelings have an energy attached to them. Our thoughts have an energy attached to them. And so when we talk about vibration, that's my interpretation, is like whatever energy level you're vibrating at, there can be a high vibration, which would be like feeling really good and grateful and happy. And then there would be a really low vibration, right? Which would be associated with maybe some of the emotions that aren't so pleasant that we feel, which would be anger and frustration and things like that. When we talk about being the creators of our story and having the power to choose what we focus on, that absolutely affects our energy and the vibration of, do we feel good or not. And I totally agree with you when you talk about honoring the emotions and feeling what is. I think it's so important to feel what's coming up for you in the moment. But where we oftentimes go wrong is I think a lot of people get stuck in that emotion and staying there. And like you said, choosing to not camp out there can be really powerful. Choosing to move forward and shift it in some way, and that can look differently for all of us.
It really can. And I know that we are all human, and there are times where I'm snappy or whatever. I'm like, what is going on with you? And I think that your life is one choice away from being different at any given moment. And that's bad choices or good choices. When we start making those choices and start getting our energy and our frequency up, that's what we're going to draw to it. And that's what's going to come. And then it affects everybody around us, right? Because then you go in and you're being grumpy and crunchy to people, and that's what you're going to get back, right? It affects everybody, and it has a ripple effect, because then you send your kids out having a good day, and they help somebody else have a good day. And I think it's just this huge thing that people don't realize how much of an impact we can have on people. I walk around with a smile on my face. I will tell, like, somebody has beautiful hair or beautiful nails, or I like the color of their shirt, or what a beautiful necklace. And people light up, and that transfers to other people during the day. And it might be a little selfish, because I love to make people stay like that. I love it. And it makes me feel good, and it makes them feel good. And I'm sure that they pass that on. You know what I'm saying? Like, the littlest things that can make our day and help other people have a good day, that possibly, well, perfect example. One day I told this lady, she was standing out front of Target. She had the most beautiful hair. And I said hi, smiled, and I said, "Your hair is absolutely gorgeous. I am not kidding you." This lady started bawling. She just went through a breakup. I asked her if I could give her a hug, and she needed a hug. I'll give strangers hug. I don't know about you, but I will give strangers hugs, and I mean every hug that I give, because it's so healing. And I think if we just all, take that with us, and realize that when we take care of ourselves and we take care of our own energy, that we are passing that on to other people, and the ripple effect, we can't even fathom how far that can reach.
I totally agree. And I think it's so powerful what you just said. You're feeling good. You want other people to feel good. And it is so infectious. Doing these acts of kindness, things for other people, even if it's just complimenting, like you said, somebody's hair, or complimenting, something that you notice about them, or bringing some light or joy into their life, is such a powerful thing that we can do to help other people feel good. And I do believe that it's contagious. So it starts with us, and then it transfers out to the people around us. And these small acts of kindness and love are some of the most powerful things that we can do.
Doesn't that fill up your cup, though? It
And
fills up my cup.
it really does.
I just love to be that person. And I even love to be that person walking through the store smiling, and people looking at you like, what's she on? She's crazy. I'm just happy to be alive, and I'm grateful for all I have. And I want to hopefully make other people feel good.
So I feel like, for me, when I smile now, it's genuine. When
Yes.
I
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I was curious, do you feel like that's how it is for you as well?
Oh, yeah, totally genuine. I'm grateful for that too, that I can go through and smile and be happy with life. And even if things aren't, 100% great, I enjoy life now, and it's good to
Beautiful.
feel that way.
It is
Yeah.
it is good to feel that way. If you could kind of summarize a legacy that you would love to pass on to your kids, or even to people that are listening to your story right now and to this podcast, what kind of legacy, or what would that look like? How do you hope to change the world by sharing your story?
I mean, I always figure if I help one person overcome depression or overcome life's challenges. I mean, life is challenging, and to bring them to a mindset, if I can affect my children, so my children can affect their children, and so on, even people out in the world. I think it's so much bigger than just us. Kindness. Little short story. When my daughter was about 7 or 8, we lived in Brookings, Oregon. And we pulled into like the dollar or something, and there was a lady out there, and she was begging on the and it was warm, and my daughter wanted to get her a candy bar and a water. And I said, "Okay, you can do that." And so we did, and she decided that she wasn't going to get anything because she was going to give it to the lady on the corner. And we pulled up and gave it to her. And as we gave it to her, she wasn't very pleased with it, which was fine. And then she walked over to a pretty nice car. And my daughter looks at me and she says, "Mom, do you think she needed that?" And I said, "Honey, it doesn't matter if she needed that or not. The universe does not work that way. It works accordingly to your giving heart. That's what it works towards." So if we can keep that mindset too, that even if we're giving, even if they don't need it or whatever, that's not on us, that's on them, right? And knowing that's your karma coming back. It has nothing to do with theirs, and that there's somebody always to talk to, and that life is really beautiful, and you are the creator. You really are the creator of your life. And a lot of people don't like to see that or take that responsibility, right? But you have all the power right in your hands. And the more people I can convince that of and let them know that there is enough for everybody, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's my goal.
I love it. That's so beautiful. I totally agree. I think that it is not our job to judge what somebody does with our kindness. It's our job to just give it. What are they going to do with the money that you just gave them, or what are they going to do with this? And it doesn't matter. What matters is that I saw somebody that I felt like needed a helping hand in whatever way, and I gave that. And so it's not up to me to judge what somebody else does with my kindness. And I think we need more kindness and we need more love in this world right now.
This is another thing I tell my kids about, like you say, give, what are they going to do with the money? You don't know what has transpired in somebody's life, put them in the situation that they're in. And if you have the heart to give, just give. And it may be nothing and it may be something, but we're really not the judge of that, right? It may just be a multitude of bad decisions, and it may be a multitude of tragic events that they just can't overcome.
And having empathy for other people is so important as well, because you're right. We don't know what somebody's been through. And even, in this podcast today, in this interview that we've been talking, both of us were walking around with a smile on our face, and really we were walking around with so much pain in our heart, right? So we never know.
Yes.
We just never know what somebody else has been through, what they're currently going through. And we don't know how much that act of kindness or love or that compliment or that showing that they're not alone, making somebody feel seen and heard and loved, we don't know how much that can impact that person. And I think it's so important.
Me too. Me too.
Thank you so much for taking the time today to share your story with us. I think it's really going to help a lot of people. I know I could relate to a lot of the things that you were saying, and we have so many similarities, which is so crazy. And
Yes, it is.
it just goes to show how we have so much more in common with people than we might realize. And when we start to share and we start to talk about things that we've gone through from an empowering standpoint, it might give hope to somebody that really, really needs it right now. So thank you for being on my podcast with me today. Thank you for sharing your story, and I appreciate you. Do you have anything that you would like to share with the listeners before we close up for the day?
Thank you so much for having me and letting me tell my story. And if anybody wants to find me, I don't know if you put links or whatever, you can link my Facebook. I usually try to keep it pretty positive and show the love there too.
Again, thank you, Stacey, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.